Joining me right now is Ty Hamland, and I know Ty through Emmanuel Baptist Church. We just had Pastor Rob here, and he mentioned how organically some of his people get involved, and so Ty is one of those people. And so I need to set this up a little bit and go back to talking about the Housing Task Force and a initiative in our community that was called Community on Call. One of the challenges that happened here in Wausau, unfortunately, is that we had people actually die on the street because of weather. And even though we had shelter through the warming center that Catholic Charities does, and they do a great job with that warming center, but sometimes people don't come into that warming center. Sometimes it's capacity issues. Sometimes it's their comfort level to be in a one room with a lot of people all sleeping together. And so the Housing Task Force, we said, well, we can't let this happen again. So what can we do? And so Donna Ambrose, who we're going to meet tomorrow on this bench, was familiar with, when she lived in southern Wisconsin, was involved with something that was called Family Promise. And I actually had experience with Family Promise in Pennsylvania, so I was very familiar with it. And so Family Promise is basically a rotational shelter that tapped into churches in the community. And so instead of having one shelter location, they would have different churches that would host the shelter, and they would take turns and it would rotate around. And so we didn't do that exactly, but we said that is a way that maybe we can meet the need. And so we reached out, and we had numerous churches that signed up to be a part of Community on Call. And basically, when the weather hit a certain temperature, we would activate Community on Call. And what that meant is that we'd go to the warming center, and our metro with the city would provide a bus, and we'd put 15 people on that bus and take them to an off-site location at a church or other agency. And then they would be cared for there, and then that created more space at the warming center where everybody knew to go. And so that allowed us to get everybody off the street in these life-threatening circumstances. And so Ty led the charge for the team from Emmanuel Baptist Church. And it just so happened last winter, all right, that the weeks that they were on call, hence the word Community on Call, were the longest, coldest spells. So they probably served more for Community on Call. So I've invited Ty to the bench, and I just really want Ty to kind of share why in the world would he do it, what it took to pull it off,
sure,
and then ultimately, what did you learn from it?
Yeah, so first of all, Craig, thank you for even providing the opportunity. Without you sharing the need, I wouldn't have known, we wouldn't have known. So just as being vocal about it as part of the church and having a relationship previously, being able to come to me and say, hey, is this something you'd be interested in leading? So that was a huge thing, right, just to get that groundwork laid there. So I guess let's break this down to your first question was?
All right, why did you get involved?
So why did I get involved? I guess the real reason is unknowing, right? So I have a curious spirit to a sense. And so when I heard about the need, it was like, okay, what does this look like? How can we actually help? And then the other side of it is being a Christian, right? So like emulating Christ and walking in his footsteps, like being hands and feet that he would want us to be, and serving people that are in need. So my history has been a little different. I grew up in central Wisconsin, but then in my teenage years, I worked over in the Twin Cities, and I did see a lot of homelessness there, and I kind of was hardened at my heart about that. Like, you know, I had the mindset of like, why can't these people help themselves, or why don't they, you know, kind of pull their bootstraps up for themselves, and those kinds of thoughts. So, you know, and there's times that I actually gave people that didn't have housing money, and I watched them go into a liquor store, right? And so these things all like were negative thoughts in my head. So then when a fellow brother asked me to participate in this, I was like super curious. Okay, how does this look from a Christian lens when I lived in the cities, I wasn't really walking with the Lord at that time. So it did change my perspective in so many ways as far as getting involved with the homeless community, because at the end of the day, they're people. And I guess when you have a hard heart, you don't view them as people. View people that are in need or lowly people as somebody who needs love just like anybody else. So having this opportunity to come in and serve with other believers or other people in our community, just to care for people in need.
Yeah. So what did it take to pull it off? Okay,
Yeah.
So, well, the thing you need to know about Ty, he's very thorough, and I don't even remember what your occupation is, but he didn't just say, "Oh, let's just do it." He was very thoughtful, very intentional. So, what all did it take to pull it off?
Right. Yeah. So, the first thing is just getting enough hands and feet to do it. So, volunteers, right? So, soliciting people and asking them for their time, their service. And then once you have a certain set of people, then finding out what their schedules are like, right? Because a lot of us have jobs. But the good thing about many people is that many people have different kinds of jobs, different times of hours that they work. Some maybe even retired. So then you got to put a schedule together. As far as the care that we needed was a check-in time at night, where at the same time we would be serving dinner. So we would get there at 5 or something like that, and then we would prepare a meal, and then we would kind of get the bins set out, get the cots set out, and prepare for the folks to come in. So there was a preparation time where we could have a set number of people come in who were like gifted in making meals for up to 15 people. Probably not something I would do, but we have plenty of people that in our church that are willing to cook and make nice, delicious meals. And then we needed people for check-in, so you kind of got to look at skill sets with people, so check-in time is chaotic, right? So you had 15 people coming in off a bus. They're kind of coming into unfamiliar territory sometimes. Some people, maybe it's their first time in the facility. They don't know where things are, how things work. So you need somebody with a loud voice and things like that. So it's just kind of getting a large group of people and then analyzing those people and then coming up with a schedule. It is a lot of management and things, but I don't know, it worked. If you have a lot of people, it makes it easier.
Yeah. So I know the answer to this, but I want you to kind of answer, Ben, for everyone. What was the hardest shift to fill?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So we broke our shifts up into like a dinner time check-in shift, so the early shift, and then we had I think it was 8 o'clock at night until 2 o'clock-ish in the morning, and then from about 2 o'clock until 5:30 in the morning, and then we had another shift from 5:30 until 8 a.m. The hardest shift to fill, you guys could probably all guess, is going to be that 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. shift. That's a brutal stretch. But we did have some people that were willing to do it, and huge blessing to everybody involved, including myself, so I didn't have to do any of those.
You didn't do any of the overnights?
I didn't do any of the overnights. I did almost all of the check-ins, or if I couldn't do the check-ins.
Why'd you schedule me for some of those?
Yeah. Flexibility, right?
Okay.
So it comes down to flexibility and what your work schedule can do. But yeah, we all work together, and it came together.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for those maybe who really don't understand, what is the process of the check-in? And then what happens? Why do we have somebody there at night?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when check-in happens, that the bus will come in, like Craig said, the city bus will drop them off at the door, and they would come in. And as they came in, they would come up to the desk and give their name, their first and last name, and then at that time we would give them a little ticket or a tag with a number, and then that number corresponded or correlated with a bin, which they were to put all of their belongings into. So they would put their backpacks and all that stuff in there, but then we'd also give them a gown so that they can go change into. So it's basically not gown, scrubs really. So it's tops and bottoms, and then they would go change and then put all the rest of their clothes and their belongings in those bins. And that's really for safety for them and us, right? So we want to kind of keep all their stuff separate, and so somebody can't dig through their things. And then we also wanted to make sure that whatever they brought in, they just didn't have, because we didn't seem that like that was necessary. Like we were going to give them a place to sleep and a warm bed and things like that. Obviously they could have some small phone or something if they had it, but otherwise most of their belongings went in the bin. And then so that'd be like the check-in process. Then we'd give them dinner after that, shortly after, because they're usually very hungry and very welcoming, a warm meal. But after dinner, usually we would wind down. They'd have a little time to just kind of lay in their cots and relax. We'd kind of dim the lights, and then the overnight shift would kind of kick in there around that 10 o'clock or 8. 10 o'clock I think is kind of when everybody's kind of in bed. And then overnight was supervision, basically making sure that people weren't getting up in the middle of the night and digging through other people's bins, and kind of just being there in case somebody needed help for like a medical emergency or something of that nature. So the overnight shift was really kind of easy, other than the fact that it was overnight and hard to stay awake. But you could bring something of your own to read a book, or if you had a laptop or something you had to do some work on, you could do that. But the main thing was staying awake and just being observant, and at least being there for any need that would come up.
Yeah. So why don't we take a couple of minutes here, get into what you gained from it, or what you learned from it, or how it changed your perspective, or how you think. Do you think differently now about the homeless population? Yeah. Talk about that a little bit.
Definitely, I do feel a lot different. So going into this thing, as I said before, kind of hard-hearted as far as, why aren't these people doing something for themselves, right? But then as we went through this process, and I think we served something like 8 nights of this. I don't know the exact number. It seemed like an eternity kind of at the time. But a joyful eternity, honestly. Okay. Long story short, at the end of the day, getting to have a relationship with people that you don't know and getting to understand them a little bit, I think changes you to say, okay, I understand now that the situation that some of these people are in, and some of it is self-induced, some of it is maybe not. A lot of it, what I found, is trauma-based or mental illness, and they need help. And that's the thing, like, I didn't realize that going into it, so I guess that's the biggest thing I learned, is that there's a lot of love and help that these people, like, I don't know that a lot of them get, like, a hug on a daily basis. Like, we take that kind of thing for granted, especially a warm meal. And the Bridge Street Mission does that during lunch and during the wintertime, with the community I call the dinner thing. But, I mean, to them, it's huge. And so to love on people and share something that I can share, right? Like, I have the ability to help them, so why not share that? And so that was the biggest thing, was they're people who need love, and we are able to help them, so we should. And they were called to, if you're a Christian.
Okay, good, excellent. So I do want to say that this year, Community on Call is going to be a little bit different, all right? And that's because right now we have a shelter happening at the Wausau Marathon County Shelter is functioning, and then Catholic Charities is going to reopen in November. And then sometime in the spring, the shelter is going to transition from the WMC to us. And so we actually anticipate that there'll be 2 functional shelters, okay? Mm-hmm. And so we might not be looking for these outer locations for Community on Call, but we're going to be, as Rob already got a message from Tracy. I don't know if you were standing there when you heard that.
Right.
There. But so Community on Call is happening already at our shelters, mm-hmm. and it's happening at Bridge Street Mission, where people who want to impact are coming to our locations, whether it be the WMC shelter or Bridge Street Mission, with meals. All right, with some of the volunteer labor. And we anticipate that during the cold weather season, everything's going to increase.
For sure.
There's going to be more people coming in. And so we may not have a separate location. We might have to, who knows?
Yeah.
All right. But yeah, so I guess my encouragement is to others, who may be thinking, wow, I could do something like that.
Sure.
I'd like to do something like that. There's going to be opportunities through Catholic Charities, through the shelter, and through Bridge Street Mission.
So in summary, you're saying that you'll likely have a place to meet or gather, but you'll need help, hands and feet, meals, things like that, to serve and monitor overnight and things.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So that will, yeah, that's the case.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
what else would you want to say or bring up or
yeah,
ask? The bench is yours right now.
Right. No, I mean, if I could make a plea, it would be that sign up and just try it. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to bless you, and you're going to feel amazing about it, and you're going to love these people, and you're going to get to know them. And it's just weird, like when you see them around on the sidewalk even now, like I know some of them by first name basis, and I can have a communication or conversation with them similar to this, but I don't see myself having that opportunity before serving with Communion on Call. You know what I mean? So it's like it's out of your comfort zone. And this is something that can bring that into your comfort zone, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you got to extend yourself, and you'll be blessed.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Ty.
You're welcome.
All right. Good.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right.